So let's talk about transition from school to into the workforce. What are the skills and things you need to focus on in order to succeed in a corporate environment? So in a corporate environment, first and foremost, it's really a team environment. That's why a lot of undergrad programs, in the first, 2 years, the courses are generally around multiple choice exams and just exams in general. But then in the upper year courses, it really shifts from exams to more of a group project environment. A lot of upper year courses requires you to do assignments that's more creative, whether it be consulting projects or strategy projects, or that you just may do research projects, but that's in a group environment in general. And this really is as the first step in the universities and college way to kind of prep you for the corporate world, because once you go into the corporate world, it's no longer about you as the individual. It's no longer about you deciding when to pull an all-nighter versus not. It's not about you when to start when to procrastinate, or when to start cramming all your deadlines into one night. It's about the team environment. It's about you being able to work with others. It's about you being able to find the middle ground with other people. It's about you being able to work as a team. So the main thing from the transition from a school to a corporate world is you need to see from I into a we. And for a lot of students, this in general wouldn't be a problem. A lot of students are very good in group projects. A lot of students have been trained all their life, whether it be elementary school, junior high, high school, and now university and college, to work as a team. Group projects obviously isn't the first time you've seen it in an upper year course. You've definitely done group projects throughout your life. So in general, a lot of students, find working in a team as not too difficult. Of course, there are going to be the odd apples in the undergrad program where they often don't do anything in a group project and they let all their team members do it. And obviously, these people will have a harder transition period once they go into the corporate world, especially if it's more of a field that requires you to do a lot of team projects. So that's the first thing in terms of transitioning from the school, from the academic world into the corporate world, is you need to start seeing yourself as a we, that your team is you and you is your team. So that's a shift in mindset for sure. But the second thing that you really need to really consider when it comes to working in the corporate world is you're going to start working with a lot of different personalities. And of course, and when you're still in school, you might have had classmates with varying different personalities, but this in the corporate world is going to be much more pronounced in various aspects, because when you're a student, all your other friends or peers is really the same hierarchy level as you. So each of you can, be as persuasive as the next person as possible. So but there's no really a power dynamic in play. Whereas when you go into corporate world, not only, you might be at the bottom of the food chain, but now you may encounter people with very difficult personalities, but they're your boss. They may be your boss's boss. So the hierarchy and the influence of power comes into play, and that's where the situation becomes much more difficult, because you could be working with someone with a very difficult personality who's very stubborn, who might not know how things work, but they're loud and they're aggressive, and they're also your boss's boss. So they're wrong. People don't know they're wrong, but no one's speaking up because they're pretty high up in the food chain. This is one thing that you're going to get used to, and as you switch jobs, you're going to have to get used to it in any new environment. And this is often referred to either a toxic environment or office politics, and this is going to be a huge shift from the academic and school world, because oftentimes when you're still in school, if you ever had a project member that was like that was very aggressive, the other team members might speak up, and they would be more inclined to speak up because all of you were at the same level, and that oftentimes the teacher or the prof or the TA may step in and to rectify the situation. But in the corporate world, those mechanisms is not as apparent, and depending on how high up the individual is, people might not even be inclined to go talk to those processes and to get this situation rectified. So this is one thing, again, from the transition between the school world to the corporate world, is really the toxic environment and the office politics, and in particular how to deal with difficult personalities. And the last thing is, also a lot along the line of differing personalities is you're going to find a lot of people with differing opinions to you. You're going to start working with people that were trained with different backgrounds. In general, most students, especially at the university level, they only really take courses within their faculty. So a lot of those students are trained in a similar way. They think in a similar way. They've been learning the similar content. For example, if you're a bio student, you probably primarily only ever took bio or science courses, so all your peers were all very sciencey, versus when you start working in the corporate world, people on your team could be from the business world, it could be from the arts world, it could be from the fine arts world, it could be from science, it could be from clinical care, it could be a slew of different varying faculty that are coming in, and you have to understand that each faculty really train their students in a different way. Each people think differently, so when you start working in the corporate world, you're going to start working a lot with other people beyond just what you've been used to, and this comes with different varying perspectives and opinions, and oftentimes they don't have to be aggressive or toxic like in the previous tip. But in here, you have to acknowledge that, people are okay to have opposing opinions to you. People have their own opinions, and they may stand their ground. They may find the middle ground with you. But you have to start, working with different perspectives. And of course, again, this comes in, being as a team player and seeing your team as yourself. But again, that's another thing to really consider when you move into the corporate world, is that your opinion is no longer the loudest. You're no longer working as an individual. You have to consider your team as a total. So you have to also really consider what they also think. And oftentimes what teams do is to try to find the middle ground. So my three things, in terms of shifting your mindset from the academic world to the corporate world, are, first and foremost, you need to work as a team. You need to stop seeing yourself as a I, but instead as a we. Your weakest link in your team is gonna dictate how fast or how slow you go. So you need to help your team members and also be a team player. The second thing is you might be working in toxic environments. There might be office politics, and in general, this is going to be a new thing for students, and it's going to get time to get used to, and everyone gets through it. And every time you start a new job in a new environment, in a new organization, you're going to have to get used to those politics as well. And it's just a way of corporate lifestyle. And a third thing is you need to, be considerate of other people's opinions, and you need to also consider that how, depending on the program or what they've trained in, it really impacts what they've seen in the past. It influences their perspectives, and also it rewires how they think. So there's another thing that you need to get used to, is to work with varying personalities, but also working with varying individuals that are skilled and trained in a different background than yours. So they will see things differently than you. They will approach a solution different to you, and it will just take time for you to kind of understand how people think and how people work. But also you need to keep an open-mindedness to kind of never see your own opinion as the right one, but instead to consider everyone else's opinions as well.